On the second segment of In Your Interest, we focus on your health. We blame stress, we blame sleep, we blame our working schedules. In a sun-soaked nation, why are Indians silently deficient in vitamin D? The numbers will shock you. We often think of India as a land bathed in sunlight, yet a silent health crisis is unfolding right under the glare of the afternoon sun. Recent studies show this is a growing public health issue that affects bones, it affects your muscles, your immunity, and much more. Vitamin D is called the sunshine vitamin because our body mainly produces it when skin is exposed to sunlight. We also get it from certain foods and supplements. It plays a key role in helping the body absorb calcium, which keeps bones strong and prevents conditions like rickets in children and osteoporosis in adults. It supports muscle strength for better movement and daily functioning. It boosts the immune system to help fight infections more effectively. But beyond that, it contributes to heart health. We're talking about blood sugar control and overall well-being in general. A major recent report from ICR-IER, along with other studies, paints a concerning picture. Now, the ICR-IER roadmap and the study on addressing vitamin D deficiency in India highlights that 1 in 5 Indians is vitamin D deficient. Children and the elderly are especially at risk. For example, around 46% of children aged from 0 to 10 may suffer from rickets due to severe deficiency. Amongst the elderly, 80 to 90% face a higher risk of osteoporosis. Nationwide, data from over 22 lakh test results analyzed between 2019 and 2025 by Metropolis Healthcare shows that 46.5% of people tested were deficient and another 26% had insufficient levels. This means a large part of the population has inadequate vitamin D. Well, why is this so common in India, you may ask? Darker skin tones have more melanin, which reduces how much vitamin D the body makes from direct touch and contact with sunlight. Many people now lead indoor lifestyles with limited time outside, especially avoiding the strongest sun hours. Cultural practices often involve covering most of the body with clothing, leaving little skin exposed. Sunscreen use and high air pollution in cities block the UVB rays needed for this vitamin D production. And diet also plays a huge part. Natural food sources like fatty fish or eggs are not common in many meals, and fortified foods are still limited. So, why does a country with so much sunlight have such high rates of vitamin D deficiency? And how can we change daily habits to really fix it? With 1 in 5 Indians affected and children facing risks like rickets, should vitamin D screening become routine in schools and health checkups? With us on the broadcast, Dr. Shikha Sharma, founder One Health and veteran nutritionist. Dr. Mekhala Chandra, senior consultant, Department of Internal Medicine, with us on the broadcast. Dr. Sharma, let's get the snowball rolling here. What's your viewpoint of this particular study? These are certainly shocking numbers. In a sun-bathed land, why are 70% of Indians, 1 in 5 Indians specifically, vitamin D deficient? We call vitamin D the bone vitamin. So what kind of problems are we looking at and what can really work out? Nobody wants to go out in the scorching sun, but there can be some hours that the Indians and people can actually venture out and do it for their own good.
Yes, absolutely. Like you have mentioned, that vitamin D deficiency is rising, and you have also listed some of the reasons why it's rising. So the first thing I would say is it's very important to get a morning sun, which means that even the afternoon, now summers are coming, so it's not possible to go out in the afternoon. But in our ancient times, we used to do Surya Namaskar. Surya Namaskar was basically get your vitamin D and do your exercises together. So a 2-in-1 kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So you can again start that, and it's good to do it in the morning. Second thing is that a lot of people are using demineralizing water purifiers, which is reverse osmosis water purifiers. So if you're going to be having water which has 0 minerals or total dissolved solids, it through a complex process in the body, it starts depriving you of vitamin D. The cholecalciferol levels start going down. So means that you have to have minerals in your water. You cannot have a water which is stripped of all the minerals or total dissolved solids.
That's right.
Third thing, the kind of chemical foods we are having. Now, all these chemicals affect your gut biome. They affect the biological processes in the body, which also includes vitamin D production, because we all know that vitamin D is produced through our skin. So all these are basically hormonal processes. Now, when we eat chemicals, they cause a sort of a blockage in the communication of these hormone receptors. So chemicals have to go out of our system. We cannot be eating so much chemicals, because already if you see in big cities, we have air pollution, we have water pollution, we also have smog. We have so much diesel and oil smog, because of which the smog is there. On top of that, if we are eating chemical food and preserved food and processed food,
Yeah.
then it is just adding a lot of problems to our natural biosystem. So I think it is important, A, have water which has minerals, B, do your Surya Namaskar, C, it's important to, of course, fortify wherever you cannot, get the right amount, and for vegetarians, of course, you'll have to have supplements, but for non-vegetarians, you have those foods, you have egg yolk and other salmon and other things.
All right. But Dr. Sharma, studies show up to 46% deficiency in a sun-soaked country. What's the clinical understanding of this paradox?
See, two things, like I said. One is that we are having too much of this demineralized water. So, water is also contributing to the imbalance in our bodies. Second thing, like I said, is that I think the amount of pollution which is coming is
Okay.
affecting our ability to actually create vitamin D, because this is a natural process. And if the body is becoming dysfunctional, like for example, we in India are having a lot of non-alcoholic liver problems, which is not connected to alcohol, because
Yeah.
of chemicals. So chemicals are actually having a far-reaching effect, more than what we ever thought of.
All right. Dr. Chandra, what's your viewpoint? Urban lifestyles, sunscreen use, pollution, as cited earlier, these are modern habits that are silently worsening vitamin D deficiency or its uptake in the body, despite abundant sunshine that's at our disposal. When we talk about some clinical problems, what are some of the red flags, some early signs and symptoms that people should worry about? There are cases of 30-year-old men and women that are doing just fine, they're sleeping well, but they still feel tired, and then they're diagnosed with deficiencies.
I want to give you a little context before I answer your question. So, in my
Yep.
clinical practice, both in US and India, I have seen in all my Indian patients, they're all vitamin D deficient or at least insufficient. Now, the reason being are many, because you said the bioavailability of the sun is there and the exposure is there, but that's not it. For vitamin D to be converted into an active agent, it has to go through your gut first. It has to be absorbed. So Indians have a lot of gut issue, which is like leading to malabsorption. So even if I give you the right amount of vitamin D, you may not be able to absorb it, and hence your body may not be able to utilize it. Also, it goes through the cycle or through the liver, and all of us, most of us, are at least, like NAFLD, which is fatty liver disease now.
Yeah.
But more than that, what I want to say is India is a very young, obese country. So my specialty is obesity medicine, and I see this in all my patients. So
Wow.
obesity indirectly affects your metabolic health of especially vitamin D cycle. So it's very common in obese patients or overweight patients. And why is that? Because the vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. So it gets trapped in your fat cells, which are already inflamed. They are enlarged adipocytes, and so the bioavailability of the active ingredient of vitamin D is absolutely almost 3 times lower than what you would see in a normal population. So it takes me almost like 2 to 3 times of the vitamin D dose to replace it and bring it to a normal serum level, quote unquote.
Okay.
But inside, the pathogenesis is deeper than this.
All right, but Dr. Chandra, it's called the bone vitamin. We've established that earlier as well. It's also established that there's clear-cut deficiency. If there is not deficiency, the levels are insufficient. But how often do you see children with rickets? How often do you see unexplained bone pain, stress fractures, osteoporosis that we've been talking about? I mean, these seem to sound like real dangerous and heavy medical terms.
Absolutely. It's becoming a silent pandemic in its own state, like with kids, as you mentioned, the severe form is rickets. But what they usually present with is, just weak bones. They will feel fatigue. Fatigue is often overlooked by mothers, often overlooked by, grown-ups. But that's how it also presents in adults. Like first symptom is a fatigue. Then, like especially in the elderly and the young population, they may have these silent fractures, which we call as compression fractures. Even without a strong impact, they will end up having like bone fractures, especially
Yep.
the spine, or the heavy bones of femur, and like especially in kids, like the tibia, like the leg bones. So it is pretty common. Fortunately, the replacement, with the right supplementation can be easy, but
Okay.
also just not the replacement, but the maintenance dose has to be done.
You're absolutely right. Dr. Shikha Sharma, when should fatigue stop being blamed on stress? Many people go through with overcorrection as well. What should prompt, firstly, a vitamin D test? What are, according to you, some red flags that should not be ignored? And this random self supplementation, is it safe? Because we see a lot of people drinking those bottles of vitamin D, but overcorrection is also a possibility, right?
Absolutely. And vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. That means it can collect in the body, it can aggregate in the body. So one cannot just have vitamin D, without measuring your actual levels of vitamin D. I would suggest that annual health checkup is a must for everybody, all Indians. And definitely, if you are having symptoms, that is, you're having fatigue, you're having tiredness, these are generalized symptoms, but one must get a blood check done because it is very, very, very common. Uh, and one thing which is very important is a lot of people think, oh, we'll do a test, vitamin D will come deficient. So why go through a prick? We'll just start having. That's the wrong way of thinking because, like I said, that high overdose can collect in your body, aggregate in your body, and cause problems.
So you realistically cannot outrun this deficiency when it comes to supplementation with food. You gave us some of those options earlier: the egg yolk, the fatty fish. What else can people start consuming to help this deficiency?
Yes. So, the doctor has already mentioned, that when we look at any deficiency, we look at that, okay, we can have a pill and then forget about it.
Yeah.
That's now how the body works. There is a gut brain axis, there is a liver health, which is also important. So, I think we have to understand that it has to be a multi-pronged approach. The first approach is you have to exercise, you have to get your sunlight. Second thing is you have to get your gut healthy. You cannot have junk food and pop a pill or a vitamin D and think I'm good. Your liver has to be healthy. Everything is processed through the liver.
Yep.
It is the biggest processing machine in our bodies. And then finally, I would say that we need to think of going zero chemicals in our homes and in our foods, and clean water, clean air. This is a fundamental right every citizen should have. So I think it needs to be a multi-pronged approach, and it cannot be a reductionist approach that, okay, I have a vitamin D deficiency, I take a pill and I'm good. It doesn't work like that long term.
All right. Dr. Chandra, let's give you the final word. Practically speaking, what's the right formula when it comes to balancing, for Indians? Is it safe sun exposure is something that we've spoken about. We've spoken about fortified foods. We've spoken about Surya Namaskar, preferably in the early hours of the day. And of course, supplementation. How personalized should it be, and what's the right balance for the average Indian out there?
I believe that's the golden question. And, as rightly pointed, you have to know what your baseline level of vitamin D is. Do not start self supplementing because over supplementation is pretty common. I do see hypervitaminosis D in my practice also, just because people forgot to stop taking it once a week, the pills and the capsules, or the little shots that people are taking. So you do need a baseline. We recommend to check again after 3 months or 8 to 12 weeks. And then we decide whether to continue a maintenance dose, which is 1,000 to 2,000 IU per day, or we give you a replacement dose, which is 60,000 K for like every once a week. The ideal supplementation is about 2 months. Now, having said that, we do try to supplement it with diet, but with Indian gut, at least in my practice, I have seen that diet sometimes is not often enough, not enough, and more importantly, one thing I want to tell through you to the viewers, another special kind of, element you want to take with vitamin D is magnesium. We are absolutely deficient as a population in that, and magnesium indirectly helps you with the absorption of vitamin D. So, before checking any kind of these supplementations, I do check what the magnesium level is. And also, you want to make sure the calcium level is okay, because there's multiple endocrine orders that can also play a role in it.
And,
So
and this
magnesium
is all
supplement-
easily, detectable with the blood serum, with the blood test, right?
These are, yeah, you can totally get a serum magnesium level. But just adding magnesium in your diet through like dietary supplements or certain diet rich foods can be helpful too. So do not think it's just vitamin D supplementation that you're doing. It is the other elements that helps in its absorption and metabolism.
Doctors, before I let you go, and my question first to Dr. Shikhar Sharma. Dr. Sharma, if we sit indoors from 9 to 6, the average Indian out there working the average 9 to 5, 9 to 6 these days, if not more, is 10 minutes of casual time in the sun. I'll take a stroll outside, expose myself to the sun. Is that really enough, or is that a myth? What's your opinion on that?
It's a good start. I would say it's a good start. At least start with 10-15 minutes. But yes, if you go longer, that's much better. But of course, don't go out in the harsh sun, because that can damage your skin. But at least start with 10-15 minutes. It's a good start somewhere.
Okay. All right. Dr. Chandra?
I think fun fact that people don't know, vitamin D is the only most studied kind of vitamin for longevity also, which has enough evidence behind it. So I think vitamin D supplementation for me is one of the most priority in any of my patients. And you will see that it indirectly helps in weight loss too. So that kind of supplementation in appropriate amounts for your body has to go through a doctor. Do not self-administer, and take this seriously. It is not just a vitamin deficiency, because it affects overall body.
And self-supplementation can be dangerous, and magnesium is another thing that people need to be on the lookout for. Dr. Sharma, Dr. Chandra, many thanks for taking on the time and speaking to us here on News9. Sometimes the problem isn't motivation, it's micronutrition. Don't do it yourself. It's a simple blood test. You can get that done. But before you blame your lifestyle, check your levels medically. India's silent epidemic might just be vitamin D deficiency. That's all the time we have for you in this edition of In Your Interest. We're going to see you again tomorrow. Many thanks for watching.
What you saw me on the field and off the field is like chalk and cheese. Is leadership acquired or leaders are born?
No guts, no glory, no pain, no gain. My tendency is to go for magic, not for perfection.
I never give up. I like to win. If you believe you can, you can.
Just me being here, it's a statement.
You define a concept called against all odds. You seem to be a destiny's child. When chips are down, the whole team could have looked up to you, said, Dada is still there.
Every time, whether I scored 100 or a Sachin scored 100 or a Rahul scored 100 or a Sehwag scored 100, the scoreboard said India won.
There is a quality about me, which is why perhaps people feel I'm a perfectionist, because I don't get tired easily.
Let the kids know and the families know that one of the best ways to get a good education, go to a good school and a good college anywhere in the world, is if you play a sport well.
How would it be possible for a person, ordinary person, for me to know?
Acting कर रहा है या ये सच कर रहा है?
ये जो बात
I'm not a very good actor in real life. Real life मेरे चेहरे पे दिख जाता है झूठ बोल रही है.
In Germany, the biggest newspaper was written on the first page. This is a finishing from Lothar Matthäus' career, and this was motivate me.
I was literally on my phone at home, and they're like, oh, we have the results. We suggest that you remove your breast. And I'm like, wait, what?
When I started stumbling and I started making the mistakes, that I realized that now that person who I have not forgiven 2 years back, now I know what he feels like.
Very important understanding of life, that you will only get opportunities if you're good. And if you're not good, don't expect opportunities.
The best example I could ever give is Abraham Lincoln, losing every election he ever had till he won the presidency.
I actually have the feeling that my life hasn't started yet.
We all have two lives. The second one begins the day we realize that we only have one life.
Wow.
India's #1 news network. And you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
Welcome back. You're watching News 9 and we are now going to a story which will put a smile on your faces. That hope exists, miracles happen, and we just need some good cheer and tidings. Even as tensions in West Asia is escalating, abnormal conditions disrupted air travel, leaving several passengers stranded in the UAE. Among them was one young woman, Soumya Khandelwal, who had travelled to Dubai for business, only to find herself unable to return home for 3 anxious days. Today we bring you her story, and it's like this. Soumya was stuck in Dubai after flight schedules were impacted due to the ongoing conflict in the region. Back home in India, her family waited anxiously for updates. She finally returned safely to New Delhi early this morning on an Emirates flight, landing at 2:10 a.m. What began as a routine business trip quickly turned into days of stress and uncertainty. But for one family, her safe return marks relief and gratitude amid a conflict that continues to ripple across borders. Let's now meet Soumya and speak to her about those tense 3 days, and I want to see whether she's smiling or not. Hi Soumya, how are you?
Hi, very well. How are you?
I'm very, very well. I mean, we are very happy for you. So how happy are you? I see that, have you played Holi? I mean, after returning to India?
Yes, I was just praying that I should be in India before Holi. I have a small daughter. I was missing her so much, and I'm so glad to be back.
So tell us about this. I mean, did you go to Dubai often, or this was your, not really, once in a while?
No, so this was my first trip to Dubai, and I went on Wednesday, hoping to come back on Saturday. I had a return flight back on Saturday evening. It was a work trip, and Saturday afternoon, when we were just packing our bags, and we just got to know the airspace is closed. And I mean, we panicked, and like all the citizens around and like the people there around, we didn't anticipate this. And then when this came, it came as a surprise that what do we do now? A country like UAE is hit, and then the airspace is closed, and everybody was frightened around, was just roaming from one place to another. But you know, the situation was bad that day, and we, of course, the flight didn't, you know, it didn't work. So we were stuck in a hotel. We were, you know, the government was very, very helpful there, and
that's what I wanted to ask you, and you said it, Soumya. How was the Dubai government, you know, considering we have a great relationship? Prime Minister Modi's done whatever it takes to be, you know, have a diplomatic and a trade relationship with both Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I wanted to ask you, how did the government help you, Soumya Khandelwal?
Okay, so government, you know, government was very, very supportive, not only towards us, but all the people who were there. They were, you know that they have diverse nationality, and there were a lot of other nationalities also present there, and they were giving full support. You'll be glad to know none of the hotel raised, you know, any kind of price surging. There was nothing like that. There was no hoarding. They had strict instructions from the government that no price should be increased in terms of hotel, in terms of you know, any food facility, cab facility. Everything was pretty much which we were paying for, you know, last couple of days when everything was okay. So the government,
so were you,
was very,
yeah,
very
so you
supportive.
were moving around in Dubai, or you just stayed put in the hotel room?
So Saturday we were advised not to move around.
Okay.
Saturday, when all this happened, Saturday and Sunday we didn't move. Sunday is anyway, it's a holiday in UAE,
Yeah.
so it was very quiet that day. But then the city was working as usual. On a Monday, you know, things were pretty much okay. Everything was opened. Nothing was closed. The Indian embassy was in constant contact, not only with me, but other people also, other Indians also who were there in the hotel. They were getting contact. They asked us if they need anything.
Right.
They gave us some number to contact if we need anything.
All right, you know, I want to ask you, Soumya, that you look very happy, you look very relieved, to say the least, you know. But the point of the matter is that there are still Indians stuck there, I mean, in different parts of UAE. You know, what's your message? I mean, I know the Indian government is doing what it takes, but the fear, Soumya, imagine sitting alone in your hotel room, and you said you left your baby girl back, you know, your daughter. So, you know, what's your message for the government And for those who are stuck there, my message is keep the faith. You're going to come back. But what is yours, Soumya?
That's exactly, I would say that keep praying, keep the faith, because we were very lucky to have, flights booked in Emirates. And the moment Emirates resumed, we had our tickets. And that's why we could come back. I'm sure things will move very quickly now. And I'm sure, the government is working very hard. And as PM Modi's relationship with the UAE government is exceptionally good. And I'm sure they're pulling out all Indians very fast. So I'm sure they just stay put. And I'm sure, government will help you out ASAP.
Will you go to Dubai again? I mean, it's a beautiful city. I'm sure you should. I don't think this experience should stop you.
Not at all. So this question I've been asked around, quite a lot from my friends and family, because Dubai was one place where I used to say that whenever I'll go, I'll stay there for some days, etc. So it's exactly how it turned out to be. And I will go to Dubai soon, very soon. The things will, when the things will be okay, I'll go again. It's a beautiful city. The government is amazing, exceptional work they've done, and exceptional management is there, and people are very supportive. So I'm going to go definitely.
Father is a politician. We've been reading his tweets. Soumya, I want to ask you that how were they holding up, when you were there? Who was taking care of your daughter? How was you look like a very, well turned out young woman who's, I would have really, I don't know what I would have done, but then you look very brave. How was your family back home?
So family was very scared, because I'm sure there were visuals here, and we were just telling them that everything is okay, things are moving okay. And of course, to be honest with you, we did see the missile interception, the debris, we did see that. So they were scared, but on the other hand, I had full faith in the government there, plus the Indian embassy, that, the moment something will, like the flights will resume, they will work out something. So, it was difficult, but I'm sure...
Yeah, all's well that ends well, and happy Holi to you and your family. Have a colourful Holi. Thank you very much. We are so happy that you came back home. Soumya Khandelwal. Thank you.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
It's confirmed. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has been eliminated. But it was just not about Khamenei. It was also about the entire regime which the Americans wanted to take out.
Are the Iranians going to carry out their pledges, and are they going to continue with their attack?
Though Trump had said that the waves of attack would continue, but a new signal has come that there might be a small pause.
IRGC is likely to adopt lesser radical and more pragmatic approach to basically buy time so that the regime can survive.
There is much more than what is visible or to the naked eye.
Khamenei was killed because uranium enrichment and the Iranian desire to make a bomb.
That expertise is there. People know how to enrich it. There are infrastructure which can again be rebuilt.
Iran today is headless. There is transition, but conclusion is far away.
News9, always on point, no noise.
How the dragon is leveraging US tariff pressure to rewrite World Trade Order. Beijing aims global dominance.
That was a very strong attack.
Only sharp, powerful insights that matter to you. Stories that are unmissable.
No more tolerance to unruly passengers on Indian flights.
In your interest.
This edition of In Your Interest.
Every time. Fastest alerts, hard facts, nuanced 360-degree analysis. India's largest news network. From the Northeast to the far South, we reach every corner. From breaking stories to in-depth reporting. When the world changes, News9 leads from the front. News9, on top, always.
Bangladesh is on edge. Protesters also targeted symbols of Bangladesh's political history.
Mr. Yunus is being the new Jinnah of Bangladesh.
What defines this mob? Who are these people? Where do they come from? Pratham Alo, the newspaper, has also called it a terror attack.
Yunus is the Osama bin Laden of today's world.
The state has no strength, or those who are on the street are the state themselves. There's nothing called spontaneous mob. There's a theory called you keep the pot boiling.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
Thanks very much for tuning in to Unmissable. I'm Nabila Jamal. I take you through news from India and across the globe. Our top stories tonight, we will delve into the US-Israel-Iran war. We're looking at India so far not condemning Khamenei, but there are reasons to that, and we're going to delve into what India's stance is on this West Asia war, particularly the attacks on Iran. And also on our top story tonight is the global economic impact. With this war, what happens to oil supply chain, what happens to the Indian currency, what happens to global markets and the Indian markets. We will take you through on that with our panel of experts in detail about the global economic impact, and also our top story tonight on Iran, where the 160 girls who died, who were killed in that war, strikes from US and Israel, their graves were made and their funeral was underway, and some really heartbreaking scenes that came in from there. We're going to take you through those images. As always, I start with the headlines. Indian Embassy in Iran says Indian students in Tehran have been relocated to safer areas due to escalating tensions in West Asia, but has also asked them to exercise caution at all times. India's 100 million barrel crude stocks could cover 40 to 45 days if Hormuz flows disrupted. According to the government sources, our position in terms of crude oil, LPG and LNG is quite comfortable, and India is fully prepared amid evolving situation in the Middle East. IAEA confirms here have been no detected radiation leaks following suspected US-Israeli strikes on Iran's Natanz nuclear facility, though there are some recent damage that's been reported to entrance buildings. IDF carried out more than 60 waves of attacks in Iran right through the day. They also hit the presidential office and the building of the Supreme National Security Council. Mass funeral was held in southern city of Minab in Iran for the girls and staff that were killed in US-Israel school attacks. In fact, the strikes killed more than 160 students and left another 60 critically injured. Afghanistan launches fierce attacks on Pakistan, captures 8 Pakistani posts, and in fact the Taliban